This is Season 2, Episode 3 of the Steady Trade Podcast. Today we're talking with up-and-coming super trader Roland Wolf, who makes an average of a steady $1,000 per day with his trading. He'll explain how he does it, and of course, we're still giving away a laptop computer, free subscriptions to StocksToTrade Pro, and a bunch of other stuff. It could be yours. Take a listen.
This is Part 2 with Roland Wolf.
You were right there, Roland, but you said it's not your best, Stephen. That might be, as bad as that was, it might be Stephen's best analogy.
No, but it's true.
No, I know exactly what you're saying. Yeah, it's definitely not a sprint, and it's definitely not. Sometimes it is. Don't get me wrong. Sometimes you get a breakout that just goes nuts. But I'd say at least for me, the ones I've played, 75% of the time, that's not how it works, or more, probably 90% of the time. It doesn't just fly. And so getting that conception out of my head was super helpful when it came to breakouts. And that's why I actually stopped buying the initial breakout, because sometimes they can break out 20, 30 cents, or depending on the price of the stock, and then pull all the way back to that breakout level, and then dip back below the breakout level. And I would easily, if I'm chasing this breakout, I would easily get stopped out, almost every time if something like that happened. Right. When I like buying the pullback, because you get to confirm the breakout once it's tested that level and then rips again. Generally it's stronger the second time.
So I kind of want to move on a little bit.
Sure.
What I'd like to talk about, I remember seeing the Instagram posts. Sykes has shared with me several videos that I don't know if the public can see, but recount me back to this trip in Italy, because I really saw, we talk about the change in Roland's trading, but I really saw an evolution of the bromance between Roland and Stephen in Italy. So take me back there. Tell me about market mastery. Tell me about the bromance. Let me know where you guys are at with that at this point.
No, so I went to Italy. Tim kind of let me know about the trip last minute,
which is pretty standard. Yep.
It was pretty standard. So I was actually supposed to go to California with my wife and children, and I told her, look, I got to go to Italy. So anyway, so I went there. I wasn't quite sure who was going to be there. I knew Tim would be there and some of his employees and stuff, but he said there'd be some other students there. And so I was pretty excited to kind of meet some other traders and hang out with Tim and hang out with everyone. And Steven's actually basically the first person I met when I got there. And I was already knew who he was because I had seen his YouTube videos. And so I had an idea of who he was. And I don't know. I think maybe playing soccer, I've been in England several times, and I just kind of get along with British people. So,
unlike me, yeah.
Anyway, so we started chatting off the bat. We just kind of hit it off. It just is what it is. He asked some questions, I answered, and we just kind of. I don't know. We both have a good time. We both like having a good time, having a couple drinks and kicking back. And so it was a cool environment, and definitely had a lot of fun together.
And I have to say, it was kind of hard not to have fun. And you were probably in the same situation. I was heading out there. I was like, I don't know anyone who's out there. I'm flying to Italy. I'm there for 3 days. I don't know what's going to happen. I've never met Tim before. I don't know if Tim's off-screen persona is completely different to his on-screen persona. I had no idea what I was walking into. It turns out he's a total family man, and his mum and dad were there, which was a total surprise. But yeah, so I met Roland. I was like, good, this guy's my age. And then we got chatting. I was like, he knows his stuff. He's motivated to move forward. Good, intelligent guy, someone to learn from. And then obviously, when the drinks had fun, it's hard not to have fun there. Just Roland, how mental was the surroundings there? It was just
it was nuts. It was like one of the prettiest places ever. First of all, it was like one of the nicest countries I've been to, and I've been to many, many countries. But that city was awesome, and obviously, we had some amazing meals.
Private beach,
everything was. The resort, everything was just. It was awesome. So any
drink you wanted.
Yeah.
Any drink you wanted, unlimited.
But then I think the coolest part was that you're with a bunch of traders, and for me, trading is a very solitary activity. You may have the chat or whatever, but I'm very much a people person. So for the last, I basically feel like a caveman. I sit here behind this screen from 5 a.m. to 5 p.m. every day Monday through Friday, and then on the weekends I do research. I watch my kids, and I research and study. Like that's all I do. So the chance to actually speak to other people about it, to other traders, was like the greatest.
The big advantages of like the market mastery, or even the the annual conference that we did. I mean, I love that because it's like you see all these screen names, people have all these weird avatars. It's like you don't even know what people's faces look like a lot of times. So, I mean, if you can go to some sort of, trader meetup, I actually know we've got some StocksToTrade Pro members that they've actually got little 10-person meetups where they like once a week get together and talk about stocks. I think that is very important to your evolution as well as just your mental well-being. It is very easy to look at those. You got 10 screens behind you. It's very easy to just lock into that and then stay in that bubble. So,
and I love it. First of all, I love my little bubble over here. This is my favorite place to be. I'm serious. Like my mom, because I'm actually in an office over here where my father works, but my mom, she has to come in and make sure that I eat and that I drink water, and like to remind me that like you got to get up and walk or something, because I mean this desk does go up and down so I can stand, but other than that, I mean I do, the day goes by quickly and I find myself sitting here all day long, and so it is cool to meet with like-minded individuals and speak about something that you're all passionate about, which is which, I mean, I talk to my wife about it every day, and don't get me wrong, she's the best. But after the first maybe 2 months, she's like, can we talk about something else? Because I would get home and be, this stock and this is what I learned, and support and resistance. And she would just, and she was interested at first, and then eventually she just kind of like, oh, that's nice. How much did you make today? And whatever. Oh, that's nice. And that was it. I mean, so I was definitely jumped at the opportunity to meet with everyone, and it's really cool.
And I just want to quickly say as well, I get so sick of people saying like, not sick of it, but a lot of people are like, I'm not getting it, or I'm not there yet. And I find a major coincidence with the people who work the hardest and the people who achieve the best results. And
I was just about to go there.
You're just going there?
Yep, go ahead.
Yeah, and I remember Tim Sykes asking you how much you studied, and you said, well, let's work backwards. And do you remember, you can tell them, you know the story, right?
Yeah, I mean, maybe. Which story are you talking about? Like how I came up with my study hours?
Yeah, how you came up with the study hours, and you're saying, well, let's go backwards. It's so much time with the family. It's so much time researching, and just so people know how much hard work you put in. Yeah,
so I have 2 children, first of all, and I've had them. I mean, I started trading after my daughter was born. She's 1 and a half now, and so I had 2 kids trying to figure out what to do, and that's also kind of what led me into trading. But being a father definitely is more challenging than if I were just a bachelor who could just do whatever the hell I wanted. And so I had to kind of be creative with my study time. Also, I had a full-time job at first. I mean, for the first 6 months of trading, I had a 9 to 5. I was working for my dad, so there was a little bit of flexibility there, which was nice. A lot of people don't have that, and he likes what I do, and he was interested in it. But I had to be very creative with finding study time once I devoted myself to trading. So basically, it would involve, there's 2 portions. I'd have the work day, but once I stopped working, we'll kind of get into that. And so it would be wake up anywhere between 4:30 and 5, since I'm on the West Coast. And then I do my preparation for pre-market, whatever, during pre-market. I trade all day in Arizona. We start at 6:30 a.m. till 1. And then I'm like a degenerate, trader. So I sit here through all of after hours. I'm serious, watching every news story that comes out, so I know what's happening the next day. It's funny. and you don't have to do this. Like, you can be totally successful and not do this, but that's just what I like to do.
I would argue in the beginning. Now, like, I don't do that. 10 years in, I don't do that anymore. But I think in the beginning, I think you need to do that. You know,
I know it's helped.
Yeah, I talk all the time about getting away in after hours, but I've been doing this for 10 years. If you're new, man, you got to put that seat time in. You got to, you got to strap your ass in that chair and stare at everything.
100%. And I'm still new. Like, that's how I feel. I still feel completely new. It hasn't been that long. Now, at this point, I guess you could say, because for quite a while, I thought I was maybe getting lucky or something. But at this point, I don't feel like it's luck anymore. I feel like I have a skill set that I can now expand on. And I know for a fact that part of the reason for, my relatively quick success has been watching every day, all day, like complete obsession. And like I said, I have to remember to eat, drink water, walk, to go do, which I don't leave this office all day long. I go with the sun when I get out, I'm like, blinding. But for sure, I mean, the screen time's been crucial. I'd say even more crucial than anything anyone can teach you is what you see every day, because the more you see these things over and over and over and over again, the more, with the next time it comes up, you're like, oh, holy, I've seen this before.
There's some study for this. And do you guys know, I don't know if he's in America, he's an English guy. Do you guys know the little ginger kid who sings the really good songs on the acoustic guitar?
Oh, don't like him.
Ed Sheeran?
Don't like him.
You know the guy?
Yeah, I know him.
He's a little ginger kid and he's really good at the guitar. And he got really good at the guitar because he said that he'd come across this philosophy of 10,000 hours. Yep. And to get any good at anything, you've got to do 10,000 hours at it. And that's kind of what direction you've gone in, right?
Oh, I totally agree with that, actually. So I actually got my second degree black belt in Taekwondo. And then with soccer and everything else, it's 100% true. I mean, you do, at a certain point, you put the hours in, you can kind of master things. And same with, I play the guitar too, and it was the same kind of principle. Like, I would play the guitar.
I don't believe it. I play the guitar. I can't believe it.
I would play for
so well in Italy.
No, but so what I would do is when I was traveling playing soccer, I would practice for. There we go. I've seen Bowen
Let's
play.
sing a song together. All three play
I've
the
seen
guitar.
him make some songs up that just crack me up.
I don't play the guitar. Well, I plucked strings, but I have no idea how to play.
About 6 months ago, he ad-libbed some song about short sellers that was had me dying.
I saw that. Short sellers. Can you do it again, Tim? Can you do it again?
No, that's pay-per-view only. So you can visit my Patreon account, and I'll get you that on my private Snapchat feed.
Yeah, but same principle. I think with anything, people just kind of want to get it. They want some magic formula for trading. Like, what do you do that's different? I just do it a lot. Like, that's it. I mean, that's the only secret that I personally can say, is that I do it a lot. I mean, I think talent does have a factor in anything you do as well. Some people will get it quicker. Some people will have more talent. But I know plenty of talented people who went nowhere with whatever their talent was because they didn't have the work ethic.
Yeah, I think you got to put together. I mean, first of all, talent. You can't control that. I think for instance, I think you. This is a compliment to you. I think you have some sort of trading gene that I don't have. But you can't control your talent. That's something that's just there. But the work ethic you can control, and the passion you can control. I think you put all three of those together. I think a lot of people we talk about the 90% that fail. I think a lot of people just go into trading because they want to make some money. It's like, but are you passionate about it? Are you willing to sit at that fucking computer 12 hours a day?
Yep.
Or do you just want to make some money?
Right.
I tell people all the time, it's like, yes, the money will come, but it's just like you playing soccer. I mean, you were a professional soccer player, but you were playing soccer because you loved soccer. You weren't playing soccer to pay the bills. And I think trading is the same way,
Yep.
And if you approach it, if you're listening to this podcast because you're trying to make a quick buck and you're not in love with trading, then you may need to revisit your goals.
100%. And I think it's the same with anything that anyone gets good at in life. I mean, if you don't really enjoy it and you're not passionate about it, then what's the point? I also think the thing with trading is it's got a lot of pool. People like the idea of trading. They like the idea of the markets. And just like you said, they think they can make money there. But once a lot of people, realize what's involved and how much work is actually involved to be successful, it kind of turns them away, and because they don't have the passion for it. So, 100% true what you said. You need the passion. You need the passion, or you won't be able to. Have it won't carry you through the tough times. I know that.
Yeah, I think you need to have some sort of sense where no matter where you are in the world, you should be able to think, oh, the market's opening now. You should know. Wherever you are in the world, you should be like, the market's opening now, and I need to be aware of that at the minimum.
I mean, when I'm on vacation, wherever, it's like, I always know when it's 9:30.
Yeah, it's at the point. I knew trading was for me because I have never been a morning person ever. Like, I don't like getting up early. You couldn't pay me to get up early, really. And, I'd be late to work and stuff like that. And work started at 9:00. But, market opens at 6:30 a.m. in Phoenix. And I'm up at 4:30, it's Christmas every morning for me. So not every. Don't get me wrong. There are days where, because I only sleep about 4 or 5 hours a night right now. We kind of diverged from what we were speaking about earlier, but that's my schedule. 4:30 wake up, 4:30 to 5 wake up, market all day, and then I get a couple hours with my family. 2 or 3 hours. We eat dinner. I'll play with my children. They go to sleep, and then I'm behind the computer at my house. And I'm looking at, I'm doing research for the next day. I'm trying, whatever it happens to be. And that's until about midnight or 1 a.m. Phoenix time. And that's when my wife starts texting me incessantly, it's time to come to sleep. This is unhealthy and all this stuff. And she's just looking out for me. I get it. But I always tell her, listen, I'm only getting older. I'm still young enough where I can grind this hard, and I have to do it while I can, because one day, I'm not going to A, want to do it, or B, be able to do it. And so as a young father of two, we have our third coming actually in February. Nice. I let her know, this is the time for me to do this. Soon our children, when our kids are playing sports and stuff, I'm going to want to take time off and hang out with them and be able to take them fishing and take them hunting or whatever we do. And I need to get this in now while I can.
Yeah, it's funny. We have similar timelines there. Obviously for me, I was I'm Eastern time, but back when I started trading 2007, 2008, I had a business. I was the owner. Nobody made me get up at 4:30 in the morning, but I knew that I was going to be busy during the day, and I knew I loved markets and was determined to learn this. So here I am, a business owner. I had young kids then too, and I'm getting up at 4:30 because I'm like, I know the only time that I can spend this study time, this learning time, is when everybody else is sleeping. Because
100%.
Once my day starts, it gets busy. You get home. Kids are, you're doing stuff with the kids. They got after school activities, all of that. So yeah, I was, to this day, I'm still getting up that early because that, I think, I like to say up before the enemy, but it's like, I want to be more prepared than the next guy. So.
Right. And that's crucial. And for any fathers out there, it's a big, like I said, being creative with your study time, especially if you have a job. One of the things I did, particularly when I was working the 9 to 5, was whatever DVD I would be watching or trying to study, or even Tim's little video lessons every day, I would stream it on my phone and put it in my dash and drive home. I'm mostly listening to it, obviously, when I'm driving. But when I'd get to my neighborhood, my wife would get pissed because she'd say, "What takes you so long to get home? You live, 10 minutes. You work 10 minutes from here." And what I would do is I'd get to my neighborhood and drive in circles. Sometimes for like an hour. And I'm serious, and it would go by pretty quick, but I'd be like, "Sorry, babe, I was watching this, whatever." And she because she was like, "What are you doing? What do you do every day?" She thought maybe I was like, doing something bad or something. I'm like, "No, I'm just watching Tim, or I'm just watching certain DVDs or YouTube." And I know for a fact that time was precious. And like you said, the morning time when the kids are sleeping and even my wife's sleeping, those are the most important times to maximize, your productivity.
So I tell you what, I think we kind of got most of my points. What I've got a few things that I want to call like kind of quick hitters that I'd
Sure.
like you to like to go over, and we kind of wrap things up here. These are the things I get asked a lot. So we've been telling everybody that this interview with you is coming. So these are questions I've gotten on Twitter and emails and stuff. So. Do you have like any favorite indicators, or what are your most commonly used indicators? That's a question I get asked a lot. What is he using RSI? Is he using moving averages? Is he using VWAP? So kind of just break down what indicators you use.
So I've tried, I don't want to say everything, but I've tried a lot of stuff. I mean, I've tried RSI in the past. I've tried, the stochastics and it just, all that stuff just kind of confused me for the most part. I'm trying to figure out what the divergence of the RSI and stochastics and whatever.
Stochastics.
Yeah. And,
what a joke.
MACD cross over the SMA 90 and the EMA. Seriously, I mean, I'd have exponential moving averages. I tried those, and I tried simple moving averages and whatnot, and it was just too much stuff. The problem I had with using too many indicators was the ability, when you have several lines on your chart, to justify anything.
Exactly. It's funny. And not to try. And of course, I cut you off again, but I say that all the time. I see so many. You can make the worst stock in the world look like a trade if you keep adding enough fucking indicators.
Oh yeah, that was my experience. I'd be like, oh well, it's still above the 20, it broke down below the 5, but so I scrapped all of them for a long period of time. 0 indicators, nothing on it, just the chart. Yeah, and then actually. The last, I want to say, probably 4 months or so, I've had the VWAP up. It's the only line on my chart, and I don't base all my decisions solely on that. But it seems the prices seem to react, at least in my eyes, how I like to trade. It works for me, so it kind of gives me an idea of how many people are underwater and how many people are above water. That's it. Just a really simple kind of, in my mind at least, more than 50% of the people, if the price is under the VWAP, are negative on their trades, unless they're obviously a short. Then they're sitting pretty. So that's how I use it. For the most part, if I'm buying stocks, I like them over VWAP. It's just really that simple. I mean, if not, you have to think, there are a lot of people who have been down on this trade who are just going to try to break even when it gets up there. And it's that simple. So, So I don't, like I said, don't base all my decisions on it, but it is the only indicator I use. Yes.
Now, Stephen, I don't know if we've ever really talked about it. What do you use?
I went through that phase as well of thinking, oh my God, I need the MACD, I need the stochastics. I looked at the RSI as well, and I just scrapped them all. I'm also under VWAP. I saw on a Tim Grattani webinar on the Tim Sykes Challenge, if it's above VWAP, the buyers are in control. If it's below VWAP, the sellers are in control, and I've always lived by that. And this will set you up for your favorite play. And I know that you like to use the VWAP as well, and hey, I've seen a lot of success with it. That VWAP hold scan, brilliant for people under the PDT.
Yep.
Yeah, and one other thing is when it comes to a lot of these indicators, I mean, when you're trading the most volatile stocks in the market, when you're trading these penny stocks, I mean, they don't mean shit, to be honest. Right. I mean,
it's one thing if you're swing trading some multi-month thing, then totally. RSI and right. But yeah, when you're trading a 300% runner, good luck using any indicators on that. That's what got me away from it as well. I mean, I would watch them, and you don't get any indication of anything from them. RSI means nothing. It's oversold. No, it's still up, whatever. It's going to go back down further. Like the whole oversold, overbought.
I might get hate for this,
go
but
ahead.
yeah, just F indicators. That's all I was gonna say. Just, I'm not allowed to say the real word. I don't think I'll get in trouble. But F indicators, like, I'll get in trouble for this. People will hate on it. I'm like, oh no, the RSI works every time. It doesn't. It doesn't work every time.
And I laugh when I see on social media or something, someone posts a chart and it's got literally like 10 layers of different stochastics and MACD cross, and then on the chart it's just a million lines. You don't even know where the chart, like where the candles are. For me, that's just a kind of bunch of bull. But
so the next
I
one,
just want to be friends with people like that.
next one, I'm going to let you follow up with the best trade. But do you have? Let's start with. I always like to focus on the negative to learn from. What do you have, like a worst trade you ever made? And what
Or
was
biggest loss.
Or biggest? Well, or actually, not even biggest loss.
Biggest loss, no.
I want to talk about like what you thought your worst trade was.
I know for a fact what it would. Well, Sino was bad, but that was, I still had a tiny account at the time, and that was a catalyst to me actually studying and whatnot. My worst trade is it actually wasn't even a big loser, but at one point it was. I was on BTCS, which is a Bitcoin stock, penny stock. Yeah, so I had quite a lot of success actually buying these during Bitcoin's run several months ago. I grew my account quite well, and what I did was Bitcoin was hitting all new stocks, so I just bought up a bunch of the cheap Bitcoin penny stocks, and they ended up double, tripling, quadrupling.
Nice.
I mean, I didn't catch most of it, but I caught good chunks of it. And then it went to, this was maybe 2 months ago or 2.5 months ago. And then so Bitcoin was hitting new highs. So I'm thinking, I can do that again. Same thing. So I took rather large positions in these Bitcoin stocks. Held them over the weekend, and then come Monday, it had tanked. It wasn't running anymore. It's a very volatile commodity, Bitcoin. So I was left holding quite a lot of shares, and I think something like 250,000 shares of BTCS or something. And then so I'm down about 6 or 7K on it. And I decided that I was going to try to prop it up like an idiot. I'm thinking if I throw a big enough bid up there, maybe I can get out of this. And it's not something I ever do, but
you at one point trying to corner the market in a shady OTC Bitcoin stock.
Oh yeah. So I think I threw like a 350 or 400,000 bid up there, and about it's a penny stock, so it was like 0.0. It was 4 or 5 bids down. I wasn't even top of the bid, and some SOB filled it. I don't know how they someone jumped it and just took me out. And so now I was holding more, and I think I was about 12 grand down or something like that. And I just held, I'm like, screw it, I'm in the hole. It's obviously, I'm serious. This is the truth. And I'm in the hole. So, what am I going to do now? It can't go to 0, can it? I think it was like 8 cents or something, so I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to ride this one out. Definitely don't recommend it. But I did. So I held that loss for quite a while, and then it came back up, and I ended up taking off. I think I lost like 3 grand on that trade, but I would have ended up making a shit ton of money if I held on much longer. But it's just one of those things. It's like when you get down in a position, you get close to break even, you're just like, take it off. And
that will, that very important lesson. Again, it's like. And fortunately, it did come back on you. But man, if you try, doubling down on a loser, it will almost never work. No,
and that's something that I learned and that I don't ever do. Like, it's just one of those things. And the truth was, I was not trying to double down on this trade. I was literally just trying to prop the thing up a little bit, which I won't ever do that again either. Particularly in shady penny stock land. I was like, who just jumped? Like, they jumped like 4 bids ahead of me, and it was just really, I mean, I had never even I mean, you see the price, shady things happen in OTCs, but
Sure.
Someone straight took me out, like, and I think I'm sure it was a market maker, because I was doing it at several price points. I would put it on and we get kind of close to me, I'd take it off. So which I see happen all the time, and I'm like, what jerk's doing this? Well, that jerk was me that day. And I learned a pretty tough lesson, but luckily it worked out. And I've had a lot of trades that I have a lot of people who think I'm like this perfect trader. I think my win rate is 64% or something at this point, or 65%. I lose almost not half of my trades, but I lose 6 out of 10 trades, 6.4, whatever. And
I've got your Profitly stats up, and winning percent 64%, which again, I think a lot of people new to trading, they need to realize that if you cut your losses early, you don't have to have a ridiculous win rate.
No, at all. In fact, you could be 50-50 win rate and still be profitable as long as you cut your losses.
Yep.
And so that's why it's the most important thing to do. I mean, if you are right 50% of the time, you cut your losses quickly, then the rest of the 50%, you let them kind of run a little bit, whatever. There's that saying, let your winners run, which I don't necessarily agree with that completely. It's not that easy, but there is a lot to be said for it. I mean, that's what kept me afloat in the beginning, and that's what keeps me alive now. And people often ask me, like, when are you going to start sizing up? I generally buy, if I'm buying a stock, for the most part, it's between like 2,000 and 10,000 shares max. I don't really go bigger than that unless, like I said, it's like a really, a 6 cent, 10 cent stock. And I tell them the same thing. Like, first of all, I'm a family man. I got my family to think about.
I'm right there with you. Yep.
Yeah, so I'm not, and I haven't made that much money. Like, yes, I've made a lot of money with my small amount of capital I started with, but it's not that much money. It's not enough to sustain my family for the rest of the time if something were to happen to me. And so I tell them the same thing. Like, I'm a safe trader. Like, I take safe trades. I take my profits. I personally size out of any position I have, more than 5,000 shares or so. I'll sell a couple thousand here, a couple thousand there, lock in quick gains, and then just take. And that's how I personally, because people talk about my patience. I'm really not a patient person. I'm a really impatient person. But when it comes to trading, I lock in some profits quickly. If I get any sort of pop, I immediately sell into it. That's the first thing I do, and I downsize a little bit, and I see the green in my account, and then the next pop, I basically sell into every pop like clockwork. And usually whatever the last sell is, it's I'll get some of it at the top, I'll get some of it at 15 cents, I'll get some in the middle, and I usually end up somewhere in the middle. Yep. And I don't take the whole move, but it works really well for me.
Well, and something I think, again, a lot of the listeners need to realize. I mean, you talk about the amazing thing, again, 4,000 to 300,000 in less than a year. Again, very, very difficult to do. But once you scale back and you look at his stats, I mean, his average net profit is $550. I mean, it's not like you don't need, and that's what drives me nuts about, Twitter is a double-edged sword. You see these guys posting $50,000, $100,000 profits, but they don't post the $20,000 losses, the $50,000 losses. Yeah. Where if you don't need to make $50,000 a trade to make $300,000 in a year. And I mean, we still got 2 months left in the year.
I think I've had I'd have to go back and look, but I've had a handful of trades that have been more than 5 or 10 grand in a trade. Like, literally could count on one hand the trades that I've had that have been more than $10,000, and then could count on one hand the trades that have been over 5,000. I think less than 10 total. The rest is just grinding and taking my 1 or 2K a day. Like, if I get that, that works for me. Yep. And that's my plan, is to keep on doing that. I am starting to contemplate short selling a bit, but for me, if it's not broke, then I'm not going to fix it yet. It's working for me now. The only reason I've been leaning towards short selling is I just want to be prepared for any market conditions. I don't want to, we're in a crazy bull market. I mean, the last month has been nuts. The last week or two has slowed down a little bit, but the weeks before that, we had 300% runners, 200% runners every day.
Literally, and sometimes multiple a day. Yeah,
multiple a day. I mean, where you could literally buy any of the runners and like leave your computer and you'd probably be better off because you'd come back and be 300% up. And where I'd take my 20% of the move and be totally stoked with it and then watch it rip 200 more percent. So I mean that's the market that we're in right now, but it won't always be like that. And it actually made me very uncomfortable the last month. When stocks are running like that, I get this weird feeling inside, like I'm missing these moves, but I was okay. I'll keep trading safe, but it just seemed wrong to me. I don't know. And I think that's part of my mentality of trying to be a contrarian when it comes to what everyone's doing, and I mean, if I just started trading this month, I'd be like, wow, this is the best thing ever. And it's so easy. But a lot of people will be in for rude awakenings when they realize that this is not what it's like most of the time. So
let's touch on what we hit the worst trade. What's your, and again, just first one that comes to mind, what was kind of your favorite or your best trade?
Oh, that's a tough one because, and I think one of the reasons it's tough for me is because, like you said, I'm a grinder. Like I just grind every day. I grind out my 1K, 2K a day. And I have had a couple big days. I had one 25K a day or so that stands out to me where it was only 3 trades and I had a short on OPNT. It was a much higher price stock than I ever trade. And it was funny, a buddy of mine alerted me to the stock and he doesn't trade or anything. His mom told him about it because she was in from 9. I mean, seriously, and they're going to be bought out, according to her research, probably on StockTwits. And then he got in at like 40 or something like that. I forget where it went to, but it ended up dropping like 14 points in a day. And he hit me up like, hey, should I hold on to this? Like, is it going to come back kind of thing? He knows I trade. It's a friend from high school. And I, I didn't really tell him what to do, but I'm like, if it were me, this thing looks like it's coming down. Like, do not pass go. This thing's coming down. And I shorted it. I'm like, okay. As a matter of fact, the next day I ended up getting short. I had to hold one more day. It didn't do anything. And then I ended up getting like 7 or 8 points out of it. Between that, a bounce play, it was pretty much my best day. But like I said, there's not really one trade to me that stands out. I couldn't even tell you. I haven't had any massive trades.
It's funny. Me personally, I like that answer. It's like for me, I remember a couple really bad losses, but I've never had a $100,000 trade. Like Sykes has had some of these ridiculous trades. I'm same way. I'm just a grinder. They all kind of blend together for me.
Yeah, that's 100%. I literally could not tell you my best trade because there's even that trade was lucky. Like a buddy of mine told me about it, and I'm like, damn, it looks like a pump and dump, and I just got short, and it could have ripped. Like it could have gone the other way, but it didn't. And instead, I waited a day, and the next day I was like, oh, this is awesome. It's coming down fast. I covered into it, and that was it. But I mean, yeah, like I said, I think there's something to be said for the grinders out there because that's how I do it, and it's consistent, and I'm safe. In order for me to make an extraordinary amount of money on a trade, I also have to risk more money. Yeah, and that's just not what I'm going to do because that's not what got me here.
Yeah, I talk about it all the time. Your goal. Obviously, you like to when you write your trade plan, you want to try and justify. Okay, there's a realistic 3-to-1 risk to reward here. If I'm wrong, I lose this. If I'm right, I make this. And right. For me, to make $100,000 in a trade, that means I need to lose $30,000 if it doesn't work. I do not, that is not my style at all,
Oh, yes, I couldn't stomach that.
Yeah. Yes, it would be cool to nail that 100, but, if I'm wrong, that means I took a $30,000 nick. No way.
Yeah. No,
I'm a little bit worried because that is kind of me. But so I hope I don't end up. I'll be the one who blows up the account. But But just for the fun of it, though,
It's time for you to size up, buddy.
No, it's going well. It's going well, but I'm the same though. I'm like, is this luck? And it's a bit scary to size up, and it is a bit scary to see the red go in your account if you get on the wrong side of it a bit early. Or if I'm shorting something, I'm gonna bit on the front side of the move. But no, it's going well for me as well. But it's been credit to you. You helped us a lot in the right direction. It all come from Italy, and that shorting into spikes, shorting into overhead resistance, shorting gap down days, just massive.
Well, and actually, that's kind of this. I think that we'll kind of wrap up with this. That actually is my last kind of listener request. What is your, and I hopefully you can pick one. But
Sure.
Do you have like a favorite setup that or maybe even what used to be your favorite setup, kind of when you were under the PDT, because obviously a lot of our listeners are new traders, and I get that question a lot. You probably get it. Steven probably gets it. What is that one setup I should be looking for?
So if under PDT, it's the overnight hold. I mean, that was my bread and butter. And the way I would go about it was just look at the percent gainers, particularly if you're working during the day too. It's the only way to go about it, because I know a lot of people who will try to catch some sort of move in the morning and then hold it overnight. And like I said, it's just a very low odds game, that is. So it would just be overnight holds, large percent gainers, hopefully a catalyst. I would look for something with not too much overhead resistance. That's, in other words, it has some room to run at least on the chart. And keep it really simple. If that's how simple I kept it. It was literally that simple. And if it was closing by its highs, first green day too. That was my other pretty much requirement, was that it was the first green day. I would rarely buy the second green day, but first green day, closing at its highs, catalyst. Like, that's how simple I kept it. If it met those requirements, then I would take a position, hold it overnight. If there were a couple of them sometimes, and I had enough, money and they were cheap enough, I would take two positions if I needed to. But that would be a max. And that's how I grew my account initially. One other thing about PDT is, and here's what I did actually, is at E-Trade, I opened an account for myself initially. Right. And then since I'm married, this was an advantage actually. Not too many advantages to being married and being when you're learning to trade. Hopefully my wife doesn't listen to this. But I opened a joint account with my wife, and so now I had two E-Trade accounts, both under the same username, and so that gave me 6 day trades. I was able to transfer freely between the two. That gave me 6 day trades a week, which was also helpful. Not that you even need that, but it did give me a little bit extra room to cut losses on certain trades if I needed. And then eventually I opened one for her too. So I had 3 accounts at E-Trade and 9 day trades a week.
Yeah, that's I've always kind of referred to that as the Tim Grattani method. I think he was one of the.
It's the only way.
Yeah, yep. And just for the listeners that know, we talk about the PDT a lot, but just a random bit of trivia is the PDT is enforced on each account, not each individual. So
right.
You could have accounts at multiple brokerage firms, or like Roland did with the joint accounts. So yeah, those 3 trips are per account, not per trader. So
right. And as a matter of fact, a couple times, actually one time on one of my accounts, I actually violated the PDT rule, and it was put under restriction for 90 days, but I still had 2 accounts left, so it wasn't even a big deal. And then if I wanted to, have a cash position or something, I could still trade. But yeah, when it comes to setups, like I said, overnight holds are golden, and if you can get that game going, risk. There's some risk to holding overnight, but for the most part, it can work out in a good fashion if you're, if it meets those requirements. You don't want to just be buying anything and holding overnight. And you just have to have a very strict set of requirements, follow them, and then do it like clockwork every single day. And that's what I did. And next thing I knew, I was over PDT.
So maybe let's summarize this. So it's first
I was
green
gonna say,
day,
since
it must have a catalyst, it's got to have volume, and it's got to have no overhead resistance. These are the four things, right?
Sounds like season 1 of the Steady Trade podcast, doesn't it?
No, I mean,
So people need to write this down.
It's that simple. It's not magic. It's that simple. And actually, as a matter of fact, I opened a Fidelity account, I believe. Yeah, Fidelity. This was about 4 or 5 months ago, and my idea was to put $5K in there and just kind of grow it slowly for my children.
Yeah.
And it was kind of a cool experience because it put me back under PDT in one of my accounts. And so I had to, it kind of put me, I was over trading a bit at the time, and it put me back in that mindset. It's a really good mindset to have, even if you're not under PDT. Pick very quality setups, and stick to those. And I actually grew that account from 5 to about 30 in about 3 weeks.
Nice.
And obviously it's a little different. It was like all in trades and whatnot, and I knew I had capital to put it back in if need be. But it's possible. Like it's not magic. And all I was doing was overnight holds, like over and over and over again.
But it's crazy though, because it's just one setup repeated over and over and over again. And it's crazy. I mean, we may as well all go around and say, what's your favorite setup? And for me, I was completely inconsistent, completely losing all of the time. And then I just started tracking on an Excel stocks that gap up, that have terrible long-term charts, and shorting into spikes on them if there's not a good catalyst. So I'm doing kind of the opposite to you. And all of a sudden, you winning consistently and think, well, I'm just going to do this over and over to get over PDT. Yep. Well, and that's what I'm doing. So I'm like you were, but the other way around.
It's just again, it's like, especially when you've got that small account, you have to have that wash, rinse, repeat methodology.
And it's the most beautiful thing when you find it. Yeah.
I'll say one more thing. Maybe we include this, maybe we don't, but it's not necessarily the best advice. But one thing I did do, I'm just telling you my story.
I love anything that starts like that.
I'm just telling you how, if anyone wants to know, how I did it. But I mean, so you're not supposed to go all in. You're not supposed to risk all your capital on any trade or at any time. But for me, when I had a small amount of money, how many shares can you buy?
Exactly.
If when I with $4,000 in an account, if it's a $5 stock, I can't even buy 1,000 shares. So what I would do, and so I didn't see it as risk as going all in ever, because I cut losses so quickly. But I would use whatever capital I had to buy as many shares as I could within reason for quite a period of time until I had enough capital that I could actually kind of dial it back a little bit and not have to use so much of my capital.
Yeah.
Now I use very small amounts of it, but at first I did. That's what I did. I had to. I didn't see it as all in because I was good at cutting losses.
Yeah, you would cut it. But for me, the way you do it a bit differently for me, but my way of trying to size up is, say, throw $2,000 in, and as soon as the trade goes your way, and you're with house's money, throw another $2,000 in, and then that's another way of limiting losses, but still having potentially higher gains.
Anyways, that's what I did.
Well, and again, we talk about, the Steady Trade podcast and not taking too much risk, but the ultimate reality, is if you got $1,000 or like you did $3,000 account, you were doing different things when you had a $3,000 account than when you had a $300,000 account.
Way different.
That's just the simple reality. Yeah.
Yeah, but you have to be able to cover commissions.
Yep.
Yeah, and this is why I don't even personally think it really makes sense to trade with that small amount of capital, because
it's hard. It's hard.
It's possible, I suppose, but if you gave me $1,000 account right now, I'd have a tough time growing it. It's just a fact of life.
With commissions, $5.
Yeah, that's a very difficult amount. I personally, if it were me, I had $1,000, I would just save I would keep working. Yeah. I would try to put away as much money as possible to give myself a realistic shot at making it.
Yeah, that's one of Tim Sykes' favorite stories is, mow some lawns, sell some shit. If you got a motorcycle, you got a quad, you got a boat that you never use, You know, if you're really passionate about trading and you got some motorcycle that you ride 3 times a year, sell that fucking thing and, you know, and get serious about your trading, you know. So.
Yeah, I mean, I have buddies who have sold their, you know, golf clubs and whatever else it is because they want to trade, and I have a lot of respect for that. You know, if you do have to sacrifice if you want to make it, so definitely would be well worth saving up money to trade as opposed to just taking if you really think you're going to take your $500, turn it into $1 million, you're a little bit delusional in my opinion.
Yeah, you might be 1 out of 1 million. Yep. So.
Yeah, not even 1 million. I mean.
So Stephen, like usual in these podcasts, I spent the majority of the time talking. Why don't I opened the podcast up? You and Roland are buddies. I'm still just getting to know him. Why don't you take us out and you know, again, Roland, I really appreciate it. Really looking forward to getting to know you more. Had a great time. Had a great time meeting you at the conference, and I'm sure I'll get to see you more in person in the future.
Yeah, definitely see you. Appreciate it.
Yeah, and just again, maybe one final question, but really great to have you on. Great to know you. Great to meet you in Italy and in America as well. We always have a blast. Just to finish on, I guess it was pretty funny when Stephen Ducks got asked what was his goal, what was his long-term ambition, and he said, rather cheekily, but to his credit, he's a little genius. Mm-hmm. he rather cheekily said, I want to make more than Sykes, Gritani, God, I want to make more than them all combined. So with that in mind, what is your long-term goal being one of the hottest up-and-coming traders right now?
I just want to be able to keep doing this. That's all I want. I want to be able to provide for my family by doing something I love, and that's what I have the opportunity to do right now. So, I mean, if I had a goal, that would be my first goal, just to stay in this game. I don't really care. I don't need to make more than anyone, really, personally. I don't. That's not even how I look at it. Is like I don't care about the money that much, to be honest. I just want to get as good at trading as I can. I want to be as good of a trader as I can be, and that just means working hard and keep doing what I'm doing. So, and not just that, but I also want to help people. I do think it's a really cool thing that a lot of people who would, you know, if you have the passion to do this, then I think, I mean, I know I'm so grateful that I found Tim that I am doing this. I mean, like I said, I was drifting. I had children and trying to figure out what am I going to do with my life, you know, without hating my job and, you know, being like a corporate slave or something. And so, you know, anyone who has the passion, I love helping people, and I would love to help anyone who wants to do it because, you know, I've had people who have helped me along the way at this point, and I think it's really cool to give that kind of knowledge. If you have any knowledge whatsoever that's made you successful, to give it back to other people. So I think that would be the 2 goals that I have would be to trade, number 1, and get better at trading, and then to help other people get better at trading, because I think that's a really cool cause.
Nice.
What about you, Stephen?
My goals are not too dissimilar. I mean, I shouldn't really say this, but my background is in advertising, and I found that in advertising I was running advertising campaigns and social media campaigns for a lot of big corporate companies just to make them more money. And I was like, this is ridiculous. So I always wanted to get in. I knew I was good at social media. I knew I could develop a YouTube channel, but I wanted to get good at trading just so when I was using social media and advertising skills, I'd be using them for a better cause, to get people out of normal environments, working class environments like I come from, and helping them change their lives. Only the people who really wanted it, though. If you really, really, really desperately want to change your life, I want to change that person's life, because you can't change them all because it's too difficult. But for me, obviously, it was a process getting good at trading first. I'm getting there. Fingers crossed.
Hey, when you
coming into profitability.
Hey, when you go green, I'm coming to Dubai. We're gonna throw a big party.
I'm going to hold you to that. This is on YouTube, but I was down 4,200. I'm now down about 3,400. I'm about $700 back. I reckon I can get green by 2018. In the next 3 months, I should be able to make it back. Fingers crossed.
Yeah, I think so.
And we'll have a big party in Dubai. And I'm holding you to
coming to Dubai.
We're gonna
Nice,
we're gonna
man.
party hard. It's gonna be good.
It's
Thank
good.
you
You're
so much.
doing good. It's been cool. One thing I like about you is that you're dedicated, and you haven't been discouraged by your losses. You haven't been a gunslinger. You're doing it right. Like while you're not, and this is for a lot of people. Well, if you're not consistently profitable, you shouldn't just be throwing a ton of money at it because you're just going to lose it.
No.
So definitely trading small will help in the beginning. Paper trading, never did paper trading when I started, but I should have, because it would have helped me prior to actually using my real capital. It definitely would have helped me just to get used to the speed of like these plays, how fast they move. I mean, even this morning I was in a stock, I forget, all the tickers I forget, but ACHN I think it was. But it was so, I mean, when the floats are small, they move so fast. And it's something that you can't get used to until you've seen it a bunch of times.
Yeah.
So definitely would recommend paper trading. Even though a lot of people say, you don't have the emotion, of course. It's not the same as your real capital, and you can just throw $1 million down, buy 1 million shares and whatever. But just if you're not watching the markets, you can't get a sense of what they're doing. If you're not watching the stocks, the volatile stocks, how they move, you can't just jump in them, like double Dutch rope, kind of trying to get in and out. It just doesn't work like that. So
I know I was supposed to be quiet till the end, but I've got this visual of you and Steven jump roping, doing double Dutch together in like your little
In Dubai.
Yep, in Dubai in your shorts.
Yeah, hey, one day.
Your soccer shorts, real short, and doing double Dutch.
Yeah, if all goes well. And in fact, Tim was making fun of us for that trip. He set a lot of those scenes up, but it was not that romantic. It was it was not. I mean, he was for instance, there was one, he pretended like he was taking a picture of us so we have our arms around each other, but he was just taking a video and he's just sitting there with the camera, and he was framing it. We were framed, but I do like the kid. He's awesome.
Nah, we'll have a blast in Dubai, and that's one extra incentive to get there sooner. But yeah, for me, I think I can do it by December. And with the Steady Trade podcast and Tim Bourne will hold us to it now, but I think I can go green by December. That's the goal.
Nice, buddy. Cool, man.
All right, cool. We'll wrap it. Roland, thank you so much. Really appreciate it. Really appreciate your help and advice and your willingness to help others. Keep on living the dream. I say we will not fail and live the dream, and you are the embodiment of that. So just keep on living the dream and keep on inspiring other people.
Thanks, man. It was great. Thanks for having me on, guys, and it was great talking to both of you, as always.
Salut. That means hello, doesn't it? Not goodbye.
I'll see you later.
Goodbye? I'll see you later. I'll see you later.
Hi, this is Jeremy from Zimbabwe, Africa, currently living in Texas, and I like to clean the house while listening to Steven and Tim on the Steady Trade podcast.
I actually don't. My wife's just in the room next to me, but brownie points, you know what I mean?
You can register to win real, actual prizes at their website, SteadyTrade.com. And if you really like what you hear, give the podcast a 5-star rating and write a glowing review on iTunes like I did. And this is how we say goodbye in Zimbabwe.